Hi everyone, I'm Matt and welcome back to another Toylytics video where we take a look at the analytical side of toy collecting. The time has come for us to start looking at the Figura Obscura line and how those figures sold on the secondary market in the second half of 2023. Before we look at the data, let's see which figures have already been released in the Figura Obscura line. So as you can see on the screen here, we have 6 figures that have been released up until this point. 1 in 2021 with the release of Krampus, 2 in 2022 with the release of the Headless Horseman and Father Christmas, and 3 in 2023 with the release of Monkey King, Mask of the Red Death, and the Ghost of Jacob Marley. Who knows what's to come in 2024? Are we going to get 4 releases to continue the pattern? I'm guessing probably not. We'll probably have 3. But one thing we do know is we're going to get retail releases of the 3 2023 figures, the Monkey King, Mask of the Red Death, and Ghost of Jacob Marley, in alternative decos, alternative colors, maybe an additional accessory here or there, like we've had from the other figures, where we had a retail exclusive Red Krampus, a retail exclusive Spectral Green Headless Horseman, and a retail exclusive Green Father Christmas. So let's start taking a look at the data and see how these figures sold in the second half of last year. So here is the table with the number of sales on the secondary market of each of these figures. The RE stands for retail exclusive version. The figure itself is just listed with its name, and then we have the all-ins where these were a bundle that was sold with the figure, and then a couple other items such as a mug or a tumbler, as well as usually a pin in the all-ins. As you can see, not a lot of all-ins have sold, so they're not super important. We will look at the average prices though just to get a sense. But overall, we had a lot of Monkey King sales. Not surprising because Monkey King became available right before the period of time that we're looking at here. He became available in May and June of 2023, so not surprising that a lot of him sold in the second half of the year. We did, though, have a lot of Headless Horsemen that sold and a lot of Father Christmas sell, even though those were released in 2022, so there's still a lot of secondary market sales there. A lot of Krampus, right? So in 2021 figure selling 71 units as well. A lot of Mask of the Red Death, even though he only became available in September, and then a little bit of Ghost of Jacob Marley because he was only available for December of 2023. Looking at the sales over time, we see a similar pattern here. Again, as I mentioned in previous videos, these graphs are going to have a lot more meaning when we get a lot more data so that we can see trends over time. But you can see that we did have a lot of Monkey King selling in July, and then that sort of petered out, and we have somewhere between 10 and 20 on average selling every month after that. A lot of Headless Horsemen with a pretty stable amount selling. But you can see that the retail exclusive Headless Horseman became available in November and December, so that sort of reduced a little bit of the regular Headless Horseman sales, and we're seeing more retail exclusive sales at that point too. There's the Father Christmas as well. And then you can see the Mask of the Red Death only became available in September, so that's where they start. And then we have this point here for the Ghost of Jacob Marley and the Ghost of Jacob Marley here too. Can't really mouse over that point, but regardless, there were 18 of those. So that's the sales by month. Let's look at the prices. Now, normally when I present this graph, I sort in order of decreasing average price to make it a little bit easier to compare. But in this case, I wanted to keep all of the same figure itself together, right? So I have all Father Christmases and then the 2 Jacob Marley releases, that sort of thing. So looking at Father Christmas, he sells on average for $96 or $90.60. That's the original one. The all-ins sold for $105. There was only one of those sales though, so it's hard to tell what the real price of that is since there are very few all-ins for Father Christmas. And then the retail exclusive price was an average of $69.30, which makes a lot of sense because the retail price for that figure at a retailer is $70. So selling just a little bit below that, as we'll see with other figures too. Ghost of Jacob Marley, on average, the figure itself selling for $119 and the all-in selling for $141. I checked my receipt and the all-in for Jacob Marley was $95. The figure itself was $60. So you could see almost double for the figure, and then a pretty significant increase then over the all-in price from 95 up to 141, and you can see that basically people are valuing the cup and the pin $22 because that's the difference in price from the average figure itself versus the all-in. Looking at the regular Headless Horseman, you can see $188.60, so about $190. The retail exclusive price on average is $137.70, and that is well in line with the actual retailer price, which is $140. Krampus. Not a lot of Crampi available at retail anymore, especially even the retail exclusive is kind of dried up. That was $65. I checked that one. All right, so a little different than the newer retail exclusives. And the original Krampus is selling for $105.30, sold for $60 originally. And as I said, the retail exclusive Krampus not available too many retailers anymore for $65. On average, that price has increased to about $70. Mask of the Red Death, again, was $60 for the original figure, and the all-in was $85. Again, I checked my receipt on that one. The Mask of the Red Death figure itself is $92 or so, and the all-in is $125. So that's a pretty significant difference between the figure and the all-in price. A lot of people want that extra, or want to pay extra for, or willing to pay extra for that mug and pin. And then finally, the Monkey King. Not a lot of Monkey King all-in selling, right? So $116.40. Not a huge difference there between that and the original figure. The original figure has increased significantly up to $101, even though that was just released in May or so. Those are the average prices, and then we will look at the individual sales to get a sense of trends over time. So I am going to group all of each figure together here. So let me keep all the sales from Father Christmas. So we had one all-in sell right there in the light blue. The regular blue is the red Father Christmas. I apologize for the colors there, but it's just the way it is in the Tableau software. And then the retail exclusive, the green version, is in this orange color. So there's our $70 retail price for those. A few people paid extra, not really sure why. You could just get it from a retailer, but then you can see a few people got it a little bit less. So we'll see what happens as retailers start to sell out of that figure, and we'll see if that price changes significantly as that occurs. But looking at the original red Father Christmas, the price generally has increased over time, although this is likely to be due, at least in part, to some seasonality, because a lot of people want the Christmas-themed figure around November and December here. So you can see that most of the sales in November and December were somewhere between $80 and $110. So if you see a red Father Christmas for less than $80, that seems to be a pretty good deal. A few people did sell for less than that, and that could be because the Four Horsemen put up some additional Father Christmas figures sort of unexpectedly on their site toward the end of the year, so maybe that's why some of those were sold so low, but most of the sales are between $80 and $110. So moving on to the Ghost of Jacob Marley, again, we're only looking at sales in December here because that's when he was available, and the prices are kind of all over the place. At the beginning, a few people got him early and sold them $130 and $170. We had some sales here from $120 to $135, and in general, he's been selling mostly from about $110 to $135 or so. That's the range. Again, not a lot of sales. We'll just see what happens with that as time goes on, and more people put them up for sale. Price might come down a little bit, but we'll have to see. The Headless Horseman, so we've got the regular version and the retail exclusive version. So the regular version is this lighter green. The retail exclusive version is this greenish brown color here, right? So $140 is our retail price, one sale higher than that, a couple sales lower, again very similar to what we saw with Father Christmas. And looking overall though, we can see that the regular Headless Horseman is still going for a pretty high price, so anywhere between about $145 and $230. And we'll see what happens with the retail release and the effect that that seems to have on the price of the original figure. So you'd think that it might come down, and there were a lot more sales from $130 to $160 once the retail release had happened. But then we had some other ones here that were right around $190 to $220. So it's kind of hard to tell. We'll see what happens over time as that retail exclusive is available more and more, and then starts to dry up. We'll see what happens with both of them as time goes on. Krampus here. Okay, so the gold color is the original Krampus, the black one, and the blue color is the retail exclusive red Krampus. So in general, we can see that the price is mostly increasing over time, at least to a slight degree, and the original black Krampus is selling for generally a higher price, anywhere between about $85 up to $140 or so, $145. Versus the red Krampus that's selling anywhere from about $60 up to about $85. In some cases, a few are higher, a few are lower, but for the most part, the black Krampus is selling for a higher price than the red Krampus is. Right. I would imagine that's because there were more red Krampi on the market because retailers were able to pre-order larger quantities. The black Krampus was made in sort of a fixed amount, a single run that was up for sale back in 2021. Okay, Mask of the Red Death. So again, here we have the all-ins that are in red. Again, not a lot of them to look at, but we see a similar pattern with a lot of other Legions figures where when the figure originally gets released, it sells for a high price, so anywhere between about $90 to $130 in its first month or so of sales. Then it seems to drop down a little bit. Maybe, people, more of them start to get in hand, more of them start to be put on sale, maybe more people start to forget about it, so the price goes down. And you can see from sort of mid-October through mid or late November, he was selling anywhere from $70 to $100, and then after that the price started to increase a little bit, right? So some of those cheaper ones get bought up, and then the price starts to creep higher as not a lot of them replace those sold figures on the market. So in December, at least late December, he was selling generally for $90 to $110. So if you can get a Mask of the Red Death for anything less than $90 now, that's a reasonably good price. Definitely less than $80 is a very good price if you're looking for one of those. And then finally, we have the Monkey King. A lot of people's most favorite Figura Obscura release up to this point. And he's got generally a stable price overall. Again, we had that initial spike where originally he was selling anywhere from 80 to up to 135 or so. But then his price didn't really come down all that much. So generally he's selling from 90 up to about 120, maybe 110, and that's kind of continued all through into the new year. So if you see a Monkey King, especially a new one, that's what the boxes, the squares represent. In the graph here, the circles represent loose figures. The boxes represent the new ones. So if you see a new one for less than $90, that seems to be a pretty good price on the market today. Or you could decide to wait until potentially the retail exclusive version comes out, but we don't really know what it's going to look like, what the color is going to be, or anything like that, and it hasn't even been put up for sale yet, and we're probably looking at around a year after that point till it's actually in hand. So if you want a Monkey King anytime soon, you're looking at probably 90 and up for the most part. If you get one less than 90, it seems like you're doing pretty well. So that is it for the second half of 2023 sales of the Figura Obscura line. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see what happens as we move forward into 2024. Always looking forward to the new releases to see how the line evolves. And of course, we'll keep looking at how the current figures are doing on the secondary market. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, and I'll see you again on the next one.